national. Ukiwa Kiswahili uko national. Amua ya kwamba nitahubiri na hiyo mbili na niko national. Kenya hii huwezi nipeleka kotini maana nimehubiri na Kiswahili, because it's a national what? Is a national language. I'm going to mix these two languages. And because this is very close to the hearts of these people, I want to treat this not as a conference or a crusade. I want to, in my mind, I want to speak to you like I'm speaking to a family, like a family gathering. And I want to begin by saying, when our church, Fountain Gate Church, Nairobi, that gave birth to Pastor Kahora's church, Christ Glory Church in Kasarani, that is giving birth now to Pastor Harrison and Ruth Church right here. You see that? This is a third generation, Yani, kama huyu ni Jacob, basi huyu ni Isaka. Na mimi nani? Simuseme kwa nguvu. Mimi ni nani? Simuniseme kwa nguvu nisikie kweli nimefanya. Aha. Now when we started our church, and you may not know that history but you need it, those days almost every church planting was a branch of a denomination. Let me say that again. In the 90s, most church plantings, you planted a branch of an existing denomination. And if you dared plant a church that was not a branch of the existing, you look like rebellious, you are lost, you are proud, na mambo mengine. But when the Lord spoke to me to plant our church, and I was not about planting churches, I really did not want. I had sworn never to plant a church, and I was not alone. All the preachers in my generation, we had held hands and agreed we are not going to plant churches because churches are dead and we are the revivalists. So if we plant, we also die. We had sworn. And we were just like you, Harrison. We were hardly in anybody's church. In fact, what made some of us come or gravitate towards church ni mambo ya harusi. Because wazee walikuwa wanasema nyinyi vijana muende kule mtaenda numuka tosalia. They meant siku ya harusi mutajishikanisha. And so weddings made some of us come back, and then you know what follows after a wedding ni watoto. Sasa watoto, you cannot dedicate your children in a crusade. Tukaanza kuingia makanisani. Tukiwa tumeingia, tukasikia no, kuna kitu hapa. We resisted church planting. In April of 1999, I was preaching in Harare, Zimbabwe. And that's where prophets told me God has spoken to them. They were Zimbabweans. They don't know me. They said, man of God, we prayed for you the whole night. We heard you preach yesterday and we prayed for you the whole night. And God told us to come and tell you that when you go back to your country, plant a church. And in that, my generation, I was the first to plant a church. In 6 months, all my age mates, my friends, we planted churches. Our churches are age mates, just like we are age mates. And we tried to talk to our fathers who were leading churches and denominations and explain to them what kind of church we wanted to plant. Myself, I talked to the two fathers, the one who raised me and the one who raised my wife, telling them, God is asking me to plant a church, but it is different from our church. And the two fathers told me, we understand what you're saying, but in our ministry, we don't work like that. And we found ourselves having to pioneer. Fountain Gate Church is pioneered. Let me mention some of them. Life Church is pioneered. Not by choice. We really would not mind being part of the existing churches. But God wanted to do something new that could not really fit in the outfit that was there. Every time God desires to do something new, He will give a new outfit. Bible says, if you put new wine in an old wineskin, there's going to be a lot of loss. You will lose the wine. You will lose the wineskin. And if you're in love with your old wineskin, you are only safe receiving from God old wine. And if you have new wine and you put it in an old wineskin, you will lose the wine and the wineskin. Now, we did something that our fathers had also done in the 70s, thereabout. They were part of the mainstream churches. They were kicked out. They tried to say, we want to. We are speaking in tongues. And they were told, whatever. You know, Namo is an animal, a certain animal. And they found themselves pioneering, not because they wanted to, but because God was doing something new. And new wine, say with me, new wine, new wine must be put in a new wineskin. So the likes of some of our fathers who started new ministries did not do so because they really wanted just to have something after their own names. But it's because what God was doing could not fit in what we call mainstream churches. Could not fit. Not that the mainstream churches are not of God. They are of God. They are of God. Not that the Pentecostal churches are not of God. They are of God. These are moves of God. These are moves of God. But upon all our mainstream churches that follow an institutional structure, the institution was of God. The denomination was of God. So when we started, somebody heard me talk about how I operate. And they said, for example, somebody said, you mean Uhai Center is your church? I said, yes. You mean you participated in planning Uhai Center? Of course. The pastor was my assistant. Hey, is in war again. We need to change the church structure.